Can we all take our seats, please? Thank you for all being here this afternoon with us. We have a lot of heavy hitters here with us today, and I appreciate that. And can we begin with roll call, Joan?
Perfect time.
Charles Long,
Here.
Chris Martinson, Michael Shaw,
Here.
Priscilla Manuelito, Kevin Mitchell.
Thank you, John. We do have a quorum. Let's begin business. Chris, can you do the honors of the Pledge of Allegiance? And thank you, Chris and board members. Let's go down to item number 2.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion that we approve today's agenda, please.
Second.
Okay, motions were made by Chris Mortensen to approve the agenda. A second by Priscilla Manlito. Roll call, Joan?
Mr. Mitchell? Yes. Ms. Manuelito?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Martinson?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes. Thank you, board members. We have approved our agenda for today's meeting. Let's go to recognition. Mike? Hello?
I think it's across the system. Is mine better? A little bit? Okay.
Can you guys hear me?
It's just buzzing a little bit. We can share, Mike.
Maybe today's for me to buzz.
Test. Test, 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 test.
Test, test, test.
Maybe a little further away from it.
Test, test, test.
Testing.
Test, test.
That's what
Test.
you call technical difficulties.
Test, test. Hello? Can you hear me?
Oh, biga.
Testing,
Mike?
testing.
All right. President Long, members of the board, those in attendance, we are really excited today to recognize 2 legislators who, in my opinion, have made history with respect to legislation in New Mexico. House Bill 6 is a bill that really tackled the impact aid issue that we have in New Mexico with respect to credits. Over the last almost 50 years, almost $2.4 billion have been credited predominantly from Native American communities and our students, and about $800 million of that was just from our district alone over those years. This legislation eliminated the crediting of impact aid dollars in New Mexico. Representative Lundstrom and Speaker Egolf sponsored and carried and lifted and maneuvered, and there's probably 15 other adjectives that I could add onto the list of what it took, probably things that I probably don't even know that happened behind the scenes that it took to get this legislation through in the fashion that it did. And this wasn't just a one-year event, but they were also a part of this for years in the past too, trying to remedy this problem in New Mexico and remedy this problem for students in New Mexico. So we are excited today to recognize both of them for sponsoring and getting this bill through the House and the Senate. And we are extremely grateful to them, and we want to thank them. And this is a small token of our appreciation to have them here today, to have some tacos outside, and to be able to recognize them. And so what I would like to do is, once I think President Long and maybe some other board members have a few things to say, once they're done, what we'll do is we'll give each of them, call them up and give them the plaque and give them a chance to speak, and then we'll have a picture in the front. This is currently being live streamed on Facebook and somewhere else, on our website. And so there's lots of people watching now. Not trying to tell you to be careful of your words, but I'm just telling you a lot of people are watching right now, and just again, just really appreciate the both of you for being here, making the trip out here, Speaker Egolf, and just grateful for your attendance and the work that you've done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mike. I don't know if you can hear me, but anyway, I want to thank Patty. Known her for a long time. I think it's about 21 years. And then Brian Egolf, thank you for being here. Our children in the school district, thank you for the work that you have done. And Patty, for crafting the bill, introducing it, and pushing it all the way through to get it approved. I think we've been shortchanged on Impact 8 money for many years. And the money that the state was taking was used in other parts of the state where there was really no Native American students going to school. And they've taken our money and they have nice classrooms, nice school buildings, good sports facilities. We've been wanting those kinds of schools, new schools, sports facilities in our area. And we've been wishing that for a long time. And I want to thank the two of you and others that helped for making it possible. Today is your day. We welcome you to our board meeting, and I just want to say thank you again for all the work that you've done for us. Thank you so much, board members.
Mr. President, thanks for the time. I also want to echo Charles Long's words and say thank you, that we really appreciate all that you did. It's a very big team effort, and I know it's been frustrating over the years, and it feels good to get something real accomplished for the kids in our area. I was talking earlier with Representative Lundstrom, and this is a generational change and a generational moment for the kids in our school district. You can look around and see some of the good news and things that we've got on our walls and our boards here about the good things that we're doing out here, and I'm excited for what we can do in the future. They've our administration and our school district really has been fighting with one hand tied behind their back for all these many years, and really making a difference in these kids, and it will be very exciting to see the differences going forward, and what our kids can do to live up to their potential. And it's important for you to recognize and know that you played just a tremendous part in that, and we really appreciate you. And I wish, it always makes me happy when we have our kids in here for awards and things like that. I wish you could see them and get a chance to shake their hands and see the lights in their eyes and the twinkle in their eyes, and we're just thrilled to death to have them, and for them to have greater opportunities going forward. I appreciate you coming. Thank you very much.
Well, I want to pretty much build on the same subject, but we appreciate everything you did for us and for the students here. It's greatly appreciated. We will be able to do so much more for our students, and we greatly appreciate for all you did for us. Thank you very much.
Shelto yat a kiteshni to tola ba kujonda di kon kalchen be besonya ba natnel bando nestadi no kon hashinza Beindilnish and an niltedan the leaders dan liniki ni kedat a dat kodeinta asho ni kaije shilta ade but be. I just want to say thank you to you all. Welcome to Gallup, and welcome to our boardroom. We appreciate what all you have done. You guys are fabulous leaders that have contributed to in different ways. This House bill, it's a long time coming, and just to hear the amount that Mr. Hyatt said, the 2.4 billion and the 800 million that was taken from this school district, taken from our kids for so many years, is just heartbreaking. But we see, as Mr. Long said, the issues that we have here in our school district. It's not only the academic section, but our students travel out and see these wonderful fields and buildings and classrooms and technology. And it was so difficult for our children just to wish. And that wishing is now going to be over for them, that they're actually going to see a reality for some of them. And, even speaking to our Navajo language and culture, some of them were driving around carts to teach the language because they didn't even have a classroom. We couldn't even afford building an extra classroom for them to utilize. And same with our special education kids. And now we get to see some of that in our future for our grandkids that are growing up and going to get a better education out of this. And 6 years ago, when I first became a board member, we were making a decision to see if we were going to do this lawsuit, not really realizing how much attention it would bring. And I think and I hope we show our children that sometimes you have to stand up and fight, even though you're standing alone, and then you realize when it gets out there, you're really not alone. That you get backup from other entities as yourselves and all these other tribes that united around this bill, and the unity of our brothers and sisters from other indigenous tribe was something spectacular to see. So I just thank you on behalf of myself as a former GMCS student that wished for a lot of things and saw a lot of things that I wish our school district had. And a thank you for our future, my future grandkids, nieces and nephews that will be seeing the reality of this funding. And thank you for both of you. And I appreciate your hard work, your long nights, your dedication to the school district, and also a thank you to the former previous leaders that have fought this battle for the last 50 years. Ahiahat nskazo, ahiahat deko nkachin bika ojegi ahiahat.
Thank you, Priscilla. That was very well said. I just want to say, how grateful I am to the both of you for pushing this. And, I was on a daily basis wondering and thinking about HBL 6, the House Bill 6, crossing my fingers, praying for the both of you to continue the fight throughout that session and give you the strength that you needed to continue on, and also praying that other legislators and senators would actually see what you guys were actually fighting for and the reason it was being done. So I do appreciate everything you guys have done for us, for Gallup McKinley County School District. Words can't even express how grateful I am, but thank you guys.
Mike?
Thank you, members of the board. We have, as I said, a small token of our appreciation is to have them come here today, Representative Lundstrom and Speaker Egolf, and we got some plaques for them that we'd like to present to them at this time. So first, I'll read it to you really quick. It just says, with our greatest appreciation, Representative Patricia A. Lundstrom, Chair of House Appropriations and Finance Committee, we hereby present to you this award in recognition of your ongoing commitment and devotion to the students of Gallup McKinley County Schools in passing House Bill 6, a landmark piece of legislation to correct impact aid funding in the state of New Mexico. 2021, first session of the 55th legislature. We could not have done this without you.
very much. I'm going to take this off. Thank you, Mike. And I'd like to thank the Gallup McKinley County School Board for this recognition. It's has been a long time coming. I did some research, as I mentioned during the signing, and looked at all the bills that had been introduced over the years to try to deal with this issue. And it was way back in 2003, Ken Martinez had introduced a piece of legislation at that time that took impact aid credits from 95 to 75% and considered that a win. And then for the last 11 years, Representative Lee Alcone out of Milan, the Cibola County area, has always been introducing legislation when it comes to the elimination of impact aid credits. But it wasn't until 2017 when a very young legislator, new to the scene, became our speaker. And that was Representative Brian Egoff, who appointed me as the chairman of the Appropriations Committee, that he had the interest in what was going on here in McKinley County with schools. We had many, many discussions about impact aid and what was happening to our school districts and a few of the others, and what it meant to the children in this area. And I remember having a long discussion with the speaker at that time, who had, you can imagine the responsibilities. I mean, it's beyond what anybody would really want day to day. And of course, we're volunteers. Remember, we're a citizen legislature. But in some cases, the position that he has is probably 24/7 with every problem under the sun that comes to the speaker. Well, I guess I was one of those problems when I came to talk to him about education funding. But he listened to what I had to say. And his consistent comment was, this is just blatantly unfair. This is just unfair. So the way a bill like this works is that first we have to make it work within the budget, and that's my job in Santa Fe, is to make sure the framework works in the budget so no other districts would have reason to complain. But the harder part is the politics of bills like this, and that's where the speaker comes in. And his direct work with the education committees. I mean, we know what always happened with education committees when these bills would be introduced. We chuckled about it a little while ago. But he made sure that these bills would move through. And that's hard to quantify unless you're there and you can see it. But I saw it. And I saw the criticism from some of our colleagues about this, and gosh, why are we doing this? We like things the way they are. But he never backed down, and I think you all need to know that. I think that's incredibly important to know. And then we also need to thank Senator Stewart from Albuquerque for her help on this. One day she just came to me, and it was last year after we tried, we didn't get through last year, and she said, Patty, I'm just tired of this. She said, we've got to fix it. And I said, well, Mimi, there's only one way. And she came on board with us, and I want to thank her also, because she knows this stuff technically, and she can be a very formidable enemy against education legislation. But she came on board with us, and that's good. We also had great tribal support. I think everybody needs to know that. And it goes back to some of the history that Charles Long was talking about. And Charles was the presidential aide at that time to Marshall Plummer, who was vice president of the Navajo Nation, and I was just elected as a state rep. They actually came to meet with me in my office about impact aid. And I'll never forget that, because Marshall said to me, he said, I want you to help the Navajo people. And I said, I will. I said, I'll do that. They're my constituents. He said, you have to help them with education. So, he was a big believer in education, and I referenced that also at the bill signing. Great leader, great person, but we had all the other tribes at the bill signing. Those guys are really behind this, and were there when we needed them. So I just want to say to the school board and to the speaker and to Mike and all the staff, this is probably the most important bill I've ever chaired. Thank you.
Well, we can, if we could, we're going to recognize Speaker Egolf, and then we will have him come up and say some words, and then we'll do a group picture if that's okay. And so we'd also like to present a plaque to Speaker Representative Brian Egolf, Speaker of the House.
I love that it's in purple. It's my favorite color. Madam Chair, Representative Lundstrom has very kind words. Thank you so much, President Long and the school board, Mike, Mr. Superintendent. Thank you for the invitation. It is really my pleasure, my honor to be invited here. I cannot tell you how exciting it was when this bill passed the Senate, when we got it through the Senate Education Committee, which had been a bit of a roadblock for several years. When I think I want to recognize our Chief of Staff, Rena Sapansky. She's here with us. She witnessed the dance I did when the bill made it over the finish line. And I have to say, when Patty Lundstrom told me what was happening with impact aid, she had to explain it several times because I simply couldn't believe that it was true. That districts like Los Alamos, with a very different student body population, get their full state allocation, no credits applied, and they get their federal funding. But when you have districts with predominantly Native American student body populations and student bodies that are students of color, the unfairness there was unbelievable to me. That in a state like New Mexico, where we pride ourselves on perfect friendship among united cultures, we did not have an education funding program that lived up to the salute we give to our flag every day, and that didn't live up to what I think our great ideals are for truly equal funding in New Mexico under our equalization guarantee. I think it's very fitting that Wilhelmina Yazzie is here with us to see this event today, someone who has done more good to shake up education and education funding and education policy in New Mexico than maybe any single individual through her work and advocacy with the Yazzie Martinez lawsuit. I'm very glad that she's here with us to celebrate together this big win. We've talked a lot about the importance of this bill giving a real chance, giving so many students in this district and Central and the others that are predominantly benefited from this legislation. So many students will finally have a real shot at the kind of future that we all hope that they have. And the additional funding, the opportunities that it brings to recruit the best teachers, to provide the best classroom services, to provide the kinds of facilities that your students deserve. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to have this kind of an achievement. And I'm just proud and honored, more than I can say, that Patty Lundstrom let me play a part in this fight, that she welcomed me onto the team. And this is easily, as Patty has said, this is easily among my proudest achievements. But it's not a matter of pride for me, it's a matter of pride for you and the students that you serve here and the other school districts that are going to see a benefit from this. I'm proud that they are going to have a greatly improved chance at a wonderful future. And I'm just, words fail me to say how glad I am that this is done. And I know that you will make wise decisions on how you spend this new funding. It's, Mr. Superintendent, it's not going to double your budget, but it's going to be a substantial increase. What's the? Yeah, so it's about a 25% increase, and that's a big deal. We don't ever see that, and it's every year. So this is not a one-year fix. This is a permanent change, It's, we often talk a lot about, as my final thought is, how do we, we acknowledge we have problems in New Mexico and around the country with prejudice, institutional systems of racism that are set up. And how do we change that? Well, we change it at the 30,000-foot level by changing the attitudes and changing the mindsets of people. But we also change by showing people that dismantling those systems are possible, and we dismantle them with things like House Bill 6. We make these changes, and bit by bit, we build the society, we build the government, we build the culture that we want for our people. And House Bill 6 is a big step in righting a wrong that was started in 1974. I had not heard that number about the cumulative amount of funding that had been denied to your district. It's breathtaking to hear that number. So we're fixing that wrong, we're setting it right, and I'm glad that I was able to play a small part in getting it done. And Mr. President, I brought a copy of the bill with the signatures on it. I don't know if you got one the other day, but this is a signed copy, and I'd like to present it to you on behalf of the school board.
They had a special meeting here.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Over here with the Gallup McKinley County thing. I need to breathe a little bit here. I know. And then you try, and then you want Let's get into it. Then you start thinking about it, then it just gets worse, and you're like, what I want is one of those big checks. Yeah.
Remember that one time, I'm sorry, that one time Giovanna was saying, that last time we were getting back from 3 years ago funding that finally started coming in, and we got like 2 real big ones. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what we need. When those big ones come like that, we just get paid. Yeah.
I saw it, but I'm not too sure. I think it is virtual. Oh my gosh. Really? For your birthday? Oh. Okay, tonaran have you. Huh? I know, it's like, yeah, yeah.
President,
Thank you.
President Long, I also wanted to let the board members know that next meeting we'll have more legislators coming. As was mentioned by Representative Lundstrom, there are many legislators over the years who have contributed to resolving this issue. We just didn't have time to do everybody and all the recognitions at once, but we'll have more legislators next session, along with some tribal leaders also in
Okay.
the Navajo Nation.
Thank you, Mike.
And potentially the Zuni Pueblo.
Yeah, for that. And I also want to thank the assistant superintendents, Giovanna, Gerald, and Pauletta, for helping us in this process. Thank you so much. And then, of course, our lobbyists did a great job and all that. So all those that were involved in getting this bill passed and all that. So I want to thank everybody. With that, let's go down to item number 3, approval of the meeting minutes of March 22nd. Board members?
Mr. President, I'll make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes from March 22nd.
Okay.
Second?
Okay, motion's been made by Chris Mortensen and second by Michael Schaaf to approve the board meeting minutes of March 22, 2021. Roll call, Joan?
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Miss Manuelito,
Yes.
Mr. Shaw,
Yes.
Mr. Mortensen,
Yes.
Mr. Long.
Yes. Thank you, board members. We approved that. Let's go down to item number 4, approval of consent agenda items.
I would like to make a motion, we approve the consent agenda items 4A, 4B, 4C, 4D, and 4E.
I'll second.
Okay, motion's been made by Michael Shaw to approve the consent agenda items, second by Priscilla Manlito. Roll call, Joan?
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Miss Manuelito,
Yes.
Mr. Shaw,
Yes.
Mr. Mortensen,
Yes.
Mr. Long.
Yes. Thank you,
Mr.
board
Long?
members.
Mr. Long, I just would like to publicly say thank you to St. Bonaventure Mission, Theroux Mid School, and Theroux Elementary, the part of the in District 3, and I just wanted to say thank you for your donation.
Okay. With that, let's go down to study circle. Mike?
President Long, members of the board, we today have a legislative report that has been put together by our lobbyists. I know that they sent you an email kind of overviewing the vast majority, or maybe all, of all the legislation passed and some bills that are important that did not pass. Last Monday, or this last week, the governor has been signing and vetoing and line item vetoing several different things. So now we are in a place where we can kind of give an overview of the legislative session and what bills passed and which ones didn't. And so I'll turn the time over to Mr. Fleischer.
Thank you, Mike. You know, Bobby Kennedy, they said he saw wrongs and tried to right them. And I think Patty Lundstrom and Speaker Egoff saw a wrong and tried to right it. And then they can't right the past, but they've righted the future. You know, the driving force behind getting this HB 6 passed clearly was Michael Hyatt and Giovanna Hanks. I mean, they've been pushing and finally got the ball really in motion and got it moving. There's a lot of credit to go around. Bob Roseborough, who's been fighting this issue for 15 years. Wilhelmina Yazzie, Representative Lee Alcone, who sponsored a bill, I think, for 10 years to try and remove the credit. Senator George Munoz, tribal leaders, and others that have moved the ball down the field. But it was Representative Patty Lundstrom and Speaker Egoff that got the ball across the goal line. They were even able to get Senator Mimi Stewart, who's been opposing changes to impact aid for years, to finally agree to its passage, which was a task in itself. And of course, the governor for signing the bill, HB 6, removal of impact aid as a credit to school funding. You should have gotten my report, which I emailed to everybody. It's multi-pages. It kind of details each of the bills we were following. I'll be glad to go through them if you'd like. But I want to talk about a few other bills that have an indirect impact on the district. SB 204, which gave Sacred Wind Communications access to state universal funds. They've not received that in the past because they were formed after a certain date, 2005. But now they'll get about $1 million to $1.5 million a year to provide internet services to this area and telephone communications. So that should be a big boost to their service here. Several other bills for funding broadband has passed for New Mexico rural communities, which should bring money to this area for expanding broadband. And they also created an office in DOIT, Department of Information Technology, to coordinate the expansion of broadband to rural New Mexico. So that should be helpful. HB 255 was a liquor reform bill with several important provisions. They eliminate the sale of miniatures for off-site consumption. You can still sell them at the pool or country clubs. They can still sell the miniatures on the golf course, but you can't sell miniatures to be taken off the premises. And that should change this complexity in Gallup a lot for alcohol issues. In McKinley County only, there'll be no sale of spirits at gas stations. You can still sell beer, but they won't be able to sell any kind of liquor after the 1st of July. And that's in McKinley County only. Also in McKinley County, their licenses, the liquor licenses, can be sold, and they get to retain the value of their packaged liquor. Any other license sold in the state that's transferred to another community loses their packaged liquor. But the ones from McKinley County will retain it to encourage them to move out of the county. And they have a restaurant-only license, so restaurants can get permission to sell liquor, which hasn't been the case in the past. And in McKinley County only, it's an option by their governing body if they want to allow that or not. Everyone else, it's automatic. And there'll be an initiative on the ballot to amend the Constitution to use part of the permanent fund for early childhood education. So even though those were not bills that were directly related to our district, they certainly will have a big effect on what goes on here. If you look at the report that I sent you, I'll give you just the highlights. There were 933 bills introduced. 158 were sent to the governor, and she signed 140. In the special session, they passed the sale of adult cannabis for recreational use. That's the marijuana bill. And they passed a huge LEDA funding for large developments of over $350 million. They get to use half of their gross receipts tax just generated from the construction goes back to the developer. And then I go through each of the bills that we were tracked or didn't track and give you a little rundown if they passed or failed. And you have the full rundown of each bill in the back. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. If you want me to go through it, I'll be glad to do that as well.
Mr. President,
Chris?
if I may. Mr. Fleischer, I sure appreciate your help, and I appreciate the work that you and your staff did and all of the things that you've done to help us out tracking these bills and helping us out with impact aid. And at least from my perspective on the school board, I think it's been, if we boil it down to dollars and cents, it's been money well spent on our part, and I feel like we've gotten our money's worth out of you. We wrung you out, and I appreciate it. I appreciate your work. Thank you very much.
Well, it's nice to have I have most of my clients are ones that I believe in what I do for. It's nice to have a client when you can achieve goals such as changing the futures of kids for the years to come and be involved with that. It's kind of rewarding to be able to represent you guys, so I appreciate the opportunity to do so. And it's good to work with Mike and Giovanna. They were real supportive and always there to meet and present things. And to be honest with you, no one in the state knows the information as well as Giovanna does. And when we kept getting these roadblocks that others would make up, she could overcome them very easily. It's really made a difference in trying to get this bill passed.
Mr. President,
Yes.
Mr. Long.
Mr. Long.
Aikaheko, thank you for your report. One of the questions I had was on House Bill 29. It's pertaining to school discrimination for hair,
Yes,
introduced by Cheryl Stapleton.
yes.
On that bill, it says cultural headdress, and of a student. And one of the things that I'm concerned about on this bill is, does that include, the headdress include cultural relevant feathers, like eagle feathers? We know we do have some students that wear
feathers when they're graduating, but in certain areas are prohibited to do that. And I just wanted to make sure that if you could look at the bill to see if that includes feathers, and preferably eagle feathers.
I was going to say, I don't know that offhand. I'll have to check.
Okay.
You're saying that you'd like to be able to still preclude them from wearing that in school settings,
That
correct?
it's okay for them to wear that, if that's included, because it says cultural
Headdress.
headdress.
Right.
And I'm wondering if feathers is included in that, because some of them are not allowed to.
Does the board generally want them to be allowed to?
Well, if this bill passed, then I think they have a right to. Okay,
Now,
thank
I'll
you.
follow up on it. Some of that comes down to the rules they write after a bill passes, how it's going to be enforced, how it's going to be addressed.
Thank
And
you.
often we have an influence on how that's done. So if there's an argument that the eagle feather could pose a health hazard for some reason to people, we could probably get it where it would be excluded. If you want to have it included because it's appropriate, we can do that as well. So that's why I was asking what you would, because I don't think that's directly itemized in that bill.
Right, the Public Education Department, when they go through the bills, they decide what regulations need to be put in place. And if they don't, then obviously then it's the school board who can adjust or write in specifics with regard to laws passed and how the school board policy would be adjusted.
It would be hard if they didn't exclude it, though, for you guys to exclude it, because people would argue that it was passed and they had the right to wear the
But
eagle
it probably
feathers.
wouldn't, if it doesn't comment on it, then it allows the board to make the decision themselves.
Any other questions, board members?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Mike?
That's all today, President Long.
Okay. Board members, we have notices and communications. You can read that on your own. The graduation dates and all that. And ink those in your calendar. And let's go down to item 6.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion that we resume our meeting in executive session, please.
Okay, motion's been made by Chris Mortensen to go into executive session. Is there a second? Second by Michael Schaaf. Roll call, Joan?
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Miss Manuelito?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw? Mr. Mortensen? Mr. Long?
Yes.
148.
148, we'll go into executive session. For you to know, there's no personnel matters. It's just going to be on the evaluation of the superintendent.
gave mine back because I looked at it and I thought, oh, what's all this nothing? It's folded. I don't know, this looks like it was folded over. What's this? Is it your chicken? No, I think I want to. Yeah, that's it. So I looked at this and I saw this part. It looks like this already eaten and folded. Okay.
Okay.
Board members,
Motion to adjourn out of executive session and return to regular session.
I'll second.
okay, motion's made by Michael Schaaf to come out of executive session, second by Priscilla Manlito. Roll call, John?
Yes.
Ms. Manuelito,
Yes.
Mr. Shaw,
Yes.
Mr. Mortensen,
Yes.
Mr. Long.
Yes.
2:20.
Okay, thank you, board members. Let me give a report on the executive session. There was no personnel matters, but we did discuss the superintendent's evaluation, and his evaluation will be on the next meeting agenda, where his evaluation will be considered.
Say motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
Michael Schaaf, motion to adjourn. Second by Chris Mortensen. Roll call. John?
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Ms. Manuelito,
Yes.
Mr. Shaw,
Yes.
Mr. Mortensen,
Yes.
Mr. Long.
Yes.
2:21.
2:21, we're adjourned. Board members, thank you yeah, for helping.
Okay, I'll see you, Chris.
We shall see you.